Welcome everybody to the Overwatch League. That's right, we're back at the Blizzard Arena in LA, California. Guess what? Stage 3, Week 3, Doa and Monty here with you. That's what.
Oh, great.
And we got a great match to start things off with. It's going to be Boston Uprising taking on the San Francisco Shock. It's a very serious broadcast, people. Get serious. Because San Francisco, they're a great team. Boston, struggling a little bit right now. Let's take a look at all of that in the context of the season standings. You can see that the Shock are 13-4, way up at the top. Boston Uprising, meanwhile, down at 7-11. Still maybe a shot to make it in that top 12, get into the stage or into the season playoff plan. It's going to be tough, though.
I think it will be tough. And the San Francisco Shock obviously taking a loss, a very surprising loss to the Houston Outlaws so far this stage. And they have shown a potential weakness against that Sombra. If you look at their last couple of maps, though, they bounced back really hard against the Seoul Dynasty. And even though Seoul was only running Sombra about 40% of the time, they still had a much better win percentage when playing against Sombra comps versus the Seoul Dynasty. So we'll have to see whether or not that Houston result was a bit of a blip on the radar, a small bump in the road, or whether it's going to be a roadblock that Sombra moving forward. I think it was just a little bump.
I agree. I think Shock looked way better in the last match. I'm not as concerned about that. What I am a little bit concerned about, though, is on the other side of this match, if we look at Boston Uprising, one of their recent acquisitions, RCK traded to them by the Dallas Fuel, hasn't maybe worked out as the Sombra they were maybe hoping for.
I mean, he still has some very good stats, and we need to see him flex more into that position. And that was one of the things we liked about this trade to Boston for RCK, was that it did give the Boston coaches, who are very good at designing set plays for this team, a few more options out of that role, because RCK has played DPS roles in the past, which means he does, I think, have a little bit more flexibility than Note at least coming in. Note now has obviously diversified his hero pool a lot since moving over to the Dallas Fuel.
Yeah, sure has. But if you look at the Boston Uprising, man, they've kind of gone downhill team fight win rate wise. Look at that, just 35.1% right now. And when you remember to what Note did for this team, they had a lot of these great set plays, right? Where they did these things that were a little bit more complex than we saw a lot of teams do, and they caught a lot of people off guard. Note was already always a big part of that. So with him not here anymore, that I feel like they're kind of having a little bit of trouble adjusting to it.
And it's important also to remember that Boston was a bit of an anomaly in that they did have a 50% win rate in stage 1 and 2, going 7-7, but they were only winning 45.3% of their team fights combined between those two stages, which is quite low. The thing that Boston did was they won the right team fights, either through set plays or from great in-game shot calling. So even though they were losing the majority, they would win the ones that gave them the objective. Now that that average team fight has gone down to 35%, they're 0-4, and they are in real trouble now.
Yeah, absolutely, and it doesn't get much easier when you think about their opponent today. Our first team in this series, the Stage 2 champions. Give it up for the San Francisco Shock. And here come the Shock. Of course, as I said, our Stage 2 champions, looking good in Stage 3. And the thing is, yeah, they've lost a series, right? Lost that one to the Houston Outlaws, but I kind of feel like that might be a benefit for the Shock, honestly. Now the pressure's off. You lost a map, no more golden stage worries. You lost a match, no more perfect stage concerns. Now you just get to play Overwatch, do the best you can. And to a certain extent, it does, I would imagine, feel like a bit of a relief to be in this position.
It also looked like it reinvigorated them because they bounced back and absolutely slammed the Seoul Dynasty in their next match. 4-0 win. They may have gotten back on track right now after looking a little bit rusty against the Atlanta Reign and then the Houston Outlaws in their first matches of the stage.
Sure enough. Well, their opponents today, a team trying to find their footing here in Stage 3. Let's hear it for the Boston Uprising. Boston Uprising take the stage. It's an exciting team to watch, a fun team to watch. I like watching these guys, but can they take any maps off of San Francisco?
And that's the big question, though. We've seen more Persia, we've seen more Alamau now, so they are experimenting with this roster. And indeed, that is who they are going to start with right off the bat here. Blase has also been taking up more of that Zarya role, so big changes across the board from the Uprising. Not only bringing in new players relatively recently in RCK, but mixing up their starting roster here.
Right, and playing Persia again, like you mentioned, a little bit surprising to see Aim God be kind of like gone for so long, considering he seemed to be one of the brighter spots on this team. But Persia coming in, doing what he can. If you compare these two, though, it's a little bit, it's really rough, actually. Wow. Now, sometimes I don't see graphics before the broadcast like that. That is a rough graphic to look at right there.
Well, I saw it, Doa, and yes, part of this is going 0-4 will always make you look worse in the rankings. But out of 27 Zenyatta players who have played 10 minutes or more this season, you look at him, he's last place in a lot of these categories. He leads the league in Zenyatta deaths per 10 minutes, and, you know, he maybe named Persia, but that certainly doesn't mean he's an immortal with that statistic.
Right, not really the Prince of Persia either in that particular place. You went with the history reference, I went with the video game ref. That kind of sums up our duo right
I think it sums up our relationship pretty good.
That's basically it. Yep. No Empire yet for Persia, but we'll see what he can do today. Our map set brought to you by Toyota. Let's see where we're going. We're going to Oasis first for our control map, then Paris will be the assault map, Hollywood will be hybrid, and then finally Dorado for escort if we need it. Keep in mind, there's always the possibility of that fifth and final tiebreaker map, but Boston Uprising have a mountain to climb if we're going to get there, but I'm excited either way, man. First day of the week again in Overwatch League. It always feels so good to get back in the game.
That it does. So Boston Uprising here. Looks like we'll probably see some flips in the end. See if Color Hex is actually going to stick on the Zarya, and Boston. They're going to go for the Sombra at the start, so RCK back on one of his principal heroes.
Yeah, it's the Hack Fist combo for the Boston Uprising, Blasé on the Doom Fist as well. This is a combo we've started to see a little bit more of lately. I really like it, but it's a bit tricky on execution. Let's see if they can pull it off. RCK having to translocate back. Here comes Blasé loading up the Rocket Fist. Does not find the target, has to go and back off, gets back to his team. RCK down already though, 6v5. They managed to equalize, big kill on Violet from Blasé, but Alemao down as well. So Boston reeling a little bit here. Their Doomfist low health as well. Nice charge onto Sinatra, down to 30 health and gets taken out. Fusion's making the play, but Blasé is already down. The team's really trading blows right now, but in the end, San Francisco managed to fight Boston off.
And it was super with the Earth Shatter at the end, building it very quickly by using that jump pad to get on the high ground in the middle of all the Boston Uprising players. But crucially, it's that pick off onto RCK. Rascal scored the elimination, stunned him on the flank most likely, and that means that they are going to be well behind when it comes to that EMP charge, and they don't get first control over the point.
You know, what they have right now, if they want it, they can use that nano boost onto Blasé to try to get a pick. That might set it up. See if he puts it on the Doomfist or the Reinhardt here as they try to re-engage. RCK needs a little bit of healing, needs a lot bit of healing as he has to translocate out again. It's a little bit rough for him.
All right, now they've got a nano boost queued up for the Uprising Shock with no ultimates right now.
Rascal getting close to the rally, so they're getting there. Violet close to his Transcendence as well. So Shock, a little bit more delay, and they'll have those tools.
Yeah, Shock controlling the high ground too. They can just drop down with that 3-3 composition, and Super's going to do it.
Blasé going in, goes for the uppercut. Doesn't really connect. Super had that Zarya shield. Now Super just walking for it. There's an nano boost onto the Doomfist. They're going for it. Blasé, uppercut trying to get the plays. Oh, Violet pops a Transcendence just in time. Maybe he can find a pick with the Meteor Strike. Going for it. Doesn't get the kill. Fusion's down in the meantime. And Shock gets hacked, but they're getting the kills anyway. They lose Rascal, but that's just what happens when you're Brigitte in the front line sometimes, and Shock still pretty easily winning that fight. No man, that's a grab. That Color really gonna want back.
Yeah,
that's rough.
The EMP had already worn off by that time, so he sort of throws the Graviton Surge in there. As we take a look at the setup again right now, Boston used a lot of critical ultimates and got no value out of them in that engagement. San Francisco Shock very happy to play against this composition from the Uprising. They have looked tight against the Sombra since the Houston game.
And Boston going for it again. They got to get aggressive with the grab right there. They might not even get to the point. 98-99. They barely flip it, though. Somehow somebody got there, and Boston Uprising manages to get somebody past the grab. Here comes the self-destruct. No kills out of that one. Shock easily flipping it back in their favor. And that might be the end of this round right here. Looks like it's all clean up from the San Francisco Shock at the moment. Color Hex getting microwave down, and that's going to be round one going over to San Francisco.
Really well played by the Shock right there. Not distracted at all. Either they were nailing the Sombra on the flank, and notice it's Rascal looking for those flankers right now. playing that Brigitte role, so he's the one who's checking on the sides, making sure that they don't get a lot of EMP charge on that hero.
He's such a great Brigitte, too. He's so good at being aggressive, like you said, making those flanking sort of picks, those setup plays. He does die, it seems like, on the eye test a little bit more often than some other Brigittes, but like I said during the round, when you're in there trying to make those plays, that's a risk you have to take sometimes. It's worth it. Hashtag worth. That's what you type as you're waiting to respawn and your team is yelling at you.
I mean, Boss is going to go for the Sombra Doomfist again. We've talked about this. This has been a popular strategy among contenders teams, particularly Element Mystic in Korea, to deal with 3-3 compositions. But
I like it.
It's
fusions!
It's very hard to execute, and he did get booped off. And actually, Doa, that is Moth's 48th environmental elimination. He currently leads the league historically in all players for environmental kills.
Yeah, you cannot walk next to the edge of anything, or Moth will find a way to shove you off that edge.
Yeah, if he gets 2 more today, he'll hit 50. He'll be the first player of all time to hit 50 environmental limbs.
I love that stat.
I know, it's your favorite.
One
of my favorites,
stats.
too.
I played a lot of Lucio over the years, man. Nothing more satisfying in the game than sending somebody off the edge into oblivion like that. Looking for again. Look at that! Again! Oh! Somehow they made it back on. Fusion's down anyway. Sinatra gets the kill. You know, there is a little ledge underneath there, but Moth, he's like, you know what? I may not have gotten the environmental kill, but I completely broke up that engagement from Boston, and that's still pretty much a game winning, or a fight-winning play. Anyway, from Moth.
Yeah,
getting out of myself there, but he's so good.
Yeah, he is great, and he's still making those plays. RCK moving up to that EMP right now, Color Hex at such a low amount of charge, but honestly, those fights have been ending so quickly because of Moth's positioning.
Well, Sinatra too, you know, only 60%, but like you said, short fights.
Yeah, very short fights here for both teams, and Moth, he really struggled at the start of this stage, but he is back on form right now. RCK, that is a disaster.
You can't have that happen. No, your Sombra cannot get caught like that. Dies at 90% towards his ultimate, and they've been building these EMPs so slowly that you're really missing out on one of the crucial tools in making this composition work in the first place.
RCK has been building them right now at an average of 1:45 per EMP, which is about 45 seconds lower than you'd ideally like on this map.
Yeah, you're looking at almost double time the usual there. Has to translocate out again. Blase getting close to his meteor strike. Well, about 60%, but if he can land a good few hits, maybe he can. Goes in, further disruption. There's the EMP, all right. Hits a good amount of members of the San Francisco Shock, but they do not hit Violet. Violet there with the Transcendence to keep his team healed anyway. And now Boston needs another option. The Nano Boost did not pan out either. Sleep Dart onto Super, but it doesn't matter as Violet's fragging out on the Zenyatta. Can he claim a third? No, he can't, but two's enough as Sinatra and Rascal are going to pick up the slack. 96% for the Shock, and this is going to be the end of Oasis. Nobody there, and that's a clean 2-0 for the Shock in our first map.
Well, I guess if we had a question about Sombra play, Coach Krusty working miracles with his team, looking like they are just targeting that Sombra over and over and over. 23 elims for the Shock, just 3 across 2 points on control for the Uprising.
Yep. Quick break, and when we come back, we'll see if the Uprising can tie it up.
The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Огонь по готовности!
Oh man, I can't wait for the grand finals. That man has Jeff Kaplan's head. What have you done? How'd you get that? Give it back.
He needs that.
Design the game.
He needs that to develop the game.
That's right. I'm pretty sure that's important for most things in life.
Well,
grand finals are going to be fun, by the way.
Yeah, they should be.
That's going to be pretty sick.
Go get your tickets for Philadelphia at the end of September there. You too can be surrounded by what I've been told are the most charming fans in professional sports.
I would agree.
I've heard they're very refined, very kind.
Yes, that's right. Known for their politeness above all else.
Philadelphia sports.
Yes, that's right.
The politest city.
Cheese steaks and politest. Cheese snake for a second. Wow, it's a whole different industry.
But I'm very excited though. It should be a really good time.
Me too.
If last year was any indication, there in Brooklyn, had an awesome audience. You will not want to miss out on that one.
No doubt, filled with more surprises. Well, Paris will be our next map. We're going to go to the assault map. Take point A, get a chance to take point B. Attack, defense, we flip. That's how it works.
And
nobody gets to ride in the hot air balloon, though. That's the sad part about this map.
We are going to actually see here the Batiste defense. This is San Francisco's standard Paris defense. What they do is they put the Batiste on the pillar in the middle, which makes it very difficult for Reinhardt 3-3 teams to deal damage to him or to block his incoming fire.
Yeah.
But guess what? That's not what we're going to see. We're going to see the Boston Uprising running a triple DPS wrecking ball composition with Color Hex there on the Widowmaker, who actually, he's had some impressive Widowmaker maps so far in this season.
He's certainly accurate. Shades of the Chengdu Hunters here. Coming out of Uprising, one thing to consider with Rascal is that he's ultra accurate on the Batiste too, so he can certainly deliver the damage as well.
Yeah.
Right now, Color Hex just looking for those picks though.
And they're trying to stay out of line of sight of the Pharah and the Widowmaker, but they do have to bounce people onto the point to deal with that wrecking ball. You don't want to give up those ticks for free while you're zoned out. And this is a very delicate dance for the 3-3 team as
really
they sort of alternate who is on the point.
Yep. Either way, no ticks taken yet for the Boston Uprising. They've made a little bit of progress, but it's all kind of going back now. Blase just firing into that window, but unless he puts more damage on there, that Rhine shield is just going to kind of stay up forever. And Super is able to kind of give it a bit more charge. Those are damage boosted rockets, though.
All right, Infrasight is up, but they already know where all the players of the Shock are, so probably won't be a surprise. Doesn't really do very much in this situation.
Yeah, Blase getting a little bit closer. Whoa! Big move going in the house. That is crazy. They take out the Immortality Field. They take out Violet as well. What a play from the Boston Uprising. Not many teams would go for something like that. But, man, they made it work.
They definitely made it work, Doa, targeting the Immortality Field immediately. And the disruption caused by fusions on that Wrecking Ball, this is another one of those strats that we've seen come out of the Boston Uprising, where they know exactly their research on the opponents, they know the Batiste is going to be coming in, and this time they split the team and they take the bold move without even the barrage.
Yeah, look over at the stage. Fusion's had a big smile on his face after that play, but
well
man,
done.
That's a big risk to make a play like that, and they executed it so well too. And that's the thing the Uprising does. Like you said, they're really good at coming up with and executing on these set plays. And now back to the Doomfist Sombra comp that we saw them use on the on Oasis. So we'll see if it works out.
Big problem though, Violet does not have the Transcendence just yet. So very narrow window here that RCK can take advantage of.
Yeah, I'll have it like now, basically.
Well, let's see if he can track him down before it happens. No.
Yeah, not going to EMP him, and Sinatra the one in a little bit of trouble here. The Transcendence goes in anyway. RCK had a chance to EMP him. Meanwhile, Sinatra gets the shield just in the moment. They're able to get on the high ground and keep everybody safe. So again, ooh, charge comes through, and Super taken out by Visions. But now Sinatra drops that grab in, and Shock trying to hold on, trying to hang in there. Color Hex down. That's a lot of damage out of commission, and if you don't kill Sinatra, he will kill you.
The idea behind that play from the Boston Uprising was so good. They also, Persia landed a very good biotic grenade onto the targets that were EMP'd, so the Transcendence, even though it was there, San Francisco Shock was not getting the healing. Shock, though, decided the three members who were biotic grenaded on the high ground did not drop down to the point into that Transcendence once they realized they had the anti-heal. So this time around, they're able to stay alive, but that was really close, and honestly, some good execution from Boston.
Learned a few things on Oasis, perhaps. Blase getting pretty close to that Meteor Strike on the Doomfist, but remember, they just want him to make plays. If he can kill one person, give him that 65. Be pretty big. That's what Doomfist is there for. All right, going in with the rocket punch, trying to chase down Rascal.
support.
Violet in trouble. Immortality field there, though. Now he's going to drop the Meteor Strike, go back onto the tanks. We'll see where he decides to land. Just in the middle of everyone, he lands on Moth. Gets one. Now Transcendence must be used to keep Violet alive. Blase, no armor left, no shields left, rather, and he's an easy target. And he made the picks, but the team just not able to follow up there.
Choi Hyobin swooping back at the last second with the Matrix to just terminate some of those left clicks, absorb them.
Yep.
Otherwise, we might have seen Violet go down right there. And San Francisco turns it around. And they're having to keep very special track of Blase. And they did have to use the Transcendence, so Boston now has another opportunity. They have the EMP, so fortunately for them, they got the Trance out. That was a huge goal, because now they can't respond as well to the EMP to San Francisco Shock. They're going to have to really carefully use that sound barrier. So right now, Boston's going to try and get that sound barrier out first.
Yeah. Fusion's in a lot of trouble, can't be kept alive with the Zarya shield. And they may just want to let Shock use an ult or two and then come back and finish fighting this later. And it looks like that's going to be the play here.
Yeah, the problem that we've seen when running with this composition from the Uprising, when you have the Sombra and the Doomfist together with no Diva, is it makes it very easy for the Shock just to throw in the grab on a single target, eliminate them, and then clean up the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
And when you're playing a composition like the Boston Uprising are, where it's very heavily reliant on flanking, getting the Sombra on the flank, getting the Doomfist on the flank to set up a pincer attack, then you have time just to find that Graviton Surge, and you can throw it an infinite distance without worrying about it getting absorbed by a Diva.
Pretty much. A lot of ultimates available now for the Boston Uprising if they were going to do it. If they were going to take point B, this is the moment. This is where they want to make it happen. RCK setting himself up for an EMP.
They need to force out that sound barrier. Big issue right now.
EMP hits everybody but Moth. Moth gets the sound barrier out in time. Violet, not so lucky, he's going to be down. Now they're trying to take out Sinatra. They do just that. Grab comes in from Colorax. Everything going okay for the Uprising so far. Immortality field not lasting long enough to really do much good. Super going for the charge. Gets the pin onto RCK, or kills Colorax as well. 2 with 1 charge, actually. And Boston Uprising losing more than I think they're expecting to. Now having to turn around onto Super. Blase finishes him with an uppercut.
They've got Trance though, Doa. This is where it gets really tricky for Boston. They haven't gotten quite enough.
And the respawns come so fast. Everybody that just died, they're already back. Only a minute 40 left for Boston Uprising. And based on the way they've been setting things up, I don't think that's enough time to set up another fight like they just had.
They were also just 1% away from getting that second tick too. That could be pretty game-changing here for Boston. They used everything they had, but San Francisco Shock, Super with that charge, got such insane value with 2 eliminations.
Dude, Super totally bailed them out.
Yes.
2 with 1 charge, like that. And he killed the Sombra and the Reinhardt. It doesn't get much better than that.
No, just a clutch moment here for the Shock.
Now they got the amplification matrix. Colorax caught the crossfire there. Gonna take a lot of damage. With that, healing coming in from Rascal too. That healing gets boosted through the ultimate as well. Trying to keep Super alive now. He's got the immortality field if he needs it. They can hide that one in the corner. They're going to use the Transcendence first, so Blase coming in, still looking for those picks, but now he has to back out one more time. Waiting for the EMP. They got it. Violet down immediately. Super in big trouble here. Can they finish him? Meteor Strike might just do it, saving it for Sinatra. Choyobin, though, gets pounded. And now the Shatter comes in, not connecting, and Boston may have found their opportunity. They got that second tick, and they are getting the kills to finish it. So, at the very last moment, Boston Uprising get the job done.
Yeah, Graviton on the high ground too to pin the remaining members of the Shock there. No chance to contest. So Boston Uprising looking a little bit better this week.
Yeah, they certainly have been executing that comp, pretty well overall. It's just tough to do anything well against a team like the Shock. We'll see what the Shock can do on attack after this. So Boston Uprising grabbing 2 points on their attack. Now it is the Shock's turn to try to see if they can equalize. I think they're up for the challenge. Don't forget, guys, our match of the week coming up on Sunday. Chengdu Hunters taking on the Dallas Fuel. That should be a fun one. Hunters are always fun to watch. Going to be on Twitch, ESPN app, and Disney XD.
It's also a rematch of a game we had last week where the Chengdu Hunters upset the Dallas Fuel in a really crazy game.
So you would still call that an upset?
I would. Based on rankings, I mean, we'll see how the Dallas Fuel do. I mean, Chengdu also lost to Guangzhou this stage, so who knows? Chengdu, is it an upset with Chengdu? Is it not?
I don't know.
Is it ever? It's
I'm
very
never
confusing.
upset with Chengdu.
They're a fun team, but
they are.
You know, the results with them are somewhat random.
Hardpoint composition from Boston Uprising on the defense using Blase on that Bastion.
Yeah, a lot of long-range damage coming in with the Bastion, the Batiste, and the Widowmaker.
Ooh, it's a lot of damage from Color Hacks, and Blase and RCK finishing people off too for Blase. But it's easy when you got a Widowmaker putting up headshots like that, and oh my goodness, what an angle. They are about to get evaporated. Goodbye, team. Play the game. Play the game right there.
Play the game for Blase.
Yep.
He sat there in sentry mode and left click, or turret mode rather. Yeah. So let's see, Blase, looking at him right there, sticking his cannon out from behind that Orisa barrier. Boston,
get that behind the barrier.
You know, I like what they're doing right now. They're playing compositions that are a little less orthodox than what most teams play in the Overwatch League. They're trying to get Color Hacks back on Widowmaker, make some pickoffs. So far it's working. We're gonna see San Francisco obviously used to bunker comps here on Paris.
What's crazy is Sinatra is still nearly at a Graviton Surge. Despite losing that fight, he got almost 80% there. That was crazy. So I wonder if Boston Uprising is going to be expecting this. That's a fast grab coming out from Sinatra.
Yeah, it's all about execution too, as you go through these open spaces and rotate slowly towards the point. But now you have to re-engage with a bunker comp, but this is where it gets tricky for Boston.
Yeah, sure does. Gonna try to go turret mode. That's a lot of damage going through that amplification matrix. Whoa, boy! Run!
Well, they didn't even get a tick on that one, so a little preemptive. Amp Matrix there to power up Blase.
Another one on the other side, though. Rascal dropping his Amp Matrix, and now Blase, the one who goes down. Sinatra doing the damage. He's got the grab as well to finish this one off. Does he have the personal shield, though, to escape?
Whoa, what?
Self-destruct, crazy. He lived, but look at all that damage now coming out. Shock, just when you thought the fight was over, they come back and win it. That's going to be point A.
Wow, that Amp Matrix just belted through the front line. Sinatra charged up there, dealing the damage to get through the barrier.
Yeah.
Not sure how he ended up on the high ground. He got bumped up there a little bit.
Sometimes that happens, you know? Get bounced around. Color Hex with the swap over to the Mei now.
And we have seen some Mei on Paris in the past.
Mei delay is the play, as they say.
As they say, Doa.
Yep, as I say.
As you say.
Well, nobody else says that.
Well, we'll have to use it from now on.
It's just me.
Okay, Choyolda needs to use his self-destruct here to break the hard point and buy them some room. Let's see what he's going to do with it.
That seems like a time to engage.
They're just poking right now. They want some more ults. I think they want the Amp Matrix before they do anything.
Just got it
there
now.
It is.
He's going to drop it immediately. Fusions gets dropped as well. Amplification Matrix on the other side, but not able to get the damage through it in time, receiving that damage instead. And oh boy, the Shock just wrecking people. That's a fast blizzard from Color Hacks, but they're not able to do anything with it.
Wow.
A blazing time taken by the San Francisco Shock. That is how your Stage 2 champions do it.
I mean, that was just ridiculously efficient from the Shock. Amazing patience waiting for that ultimate to come up. And they're playing around that Amp Matrix knowing that they needed to break the bunker, and they're not approaching until they have it. Great discipline.
Going into Time Bank when we come back. Extra innings here on Paris. Now we go to Time Bank. 5:13 in the clock for the San Francisco Shock. Meanwhile, Boston Uprising with just a minute remaining. But at least they've got something. They will be attacking first.
And you know what? Shock are play around objectives so well. It's about the value of eliminations you get, because right now the Boston Uprising are leading in eliminations in this game, 26-25. But there is a 4-minute and 13 time bank difference because of how well the Shock just convert kills into objective time.
I'm a little bit interested to learn how Fusions died at the end of that last round as well, too. RCK down as well. Rascal, so good with any sort of hit scan hero.
And that's another time that Rascal has eliminated RCK first in these engagements. And you just can't have that happen.
Yeah.
It sets your EMP back so far. You need that, especially on a short time bank, because you have to have it by the time that this hits 0.
I mean, and Batiste doesn't have any crowd control either. He has no way to like affect his opponent's movement or anything. That's just simply good marksmanship there from Rascal.
Yeah, it absolutely is. He's gonna try and get on the point. 10 seconds left. They've got to stick on the. Oh boy!
Oh, Color X down, Violet with the pick now. That's not how Widowmaker's supposed to work. Fusions just trying to delay as long as he can. A little bit there. We're in overtime already, but I don't think Boston Uprising is going to be able to get anything here. Not when they lose all their supports like that. And Fusions gets a kill into Choyobin by knocking him off the edge, but nobody even on the point. And that is 0 progress made by the Boston Uprising. Shock in a great position to win this map.
Yeah, honestly, it was pretty much over when RCK died first there. There just wasn't enough time to reset properly with that composition. Because when you're playing the DPS, it takes a while to poke them off the point and start to apply pressure. And when you lose that pressure, and you only have 20 seconds to actually play after that, you're just not going to beat 3-3 with the sustain that they have, because you have to rush the point.
Sure.
It's just kind of over.
Well, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place in that scenario too, because you don't want to play 3-3 against a Shock. Like, that's almost certainly a loss for nearly anybody in the league. So you try to do, what might be able to work, but then the only alternative is that comp that takes longer to get the job done. And with only a minute, it's rough, Uprising did what they could, did not come away with anything though. And as we just mentioned, San Francisco Shock in a position now where all they need is that first tick, that first third of the control on point A to win the map and go up 2-0 in this series.
They may be doing it with Choi Hyobin on the Sombra. He has hardly played Sombra at all this season, but I think it is something that the Shock need to start really working with, because it's been Sinatra when they need the Sombra who typically plays it.
Sinatra on the Tracer this time for the moment. Wonder if we'll see people switch. We'll see. Could just be a quad DPS look from the Shock. Why not? You got plenty of time.
When you have 5 minutes, this is definitely an extremely efficient composition to run. At least also put some fear in your next opponents. This is something they have to prep for. Choi Hyobin throws the translocator. Oh, throws another one. He's not going to go over the top right there. Bunker composition is pushed back. Super, unfortunately, is going to die at the start of that engagement. Looks like he did get hit by the biotic grenade.
Yeah, well, Choyobin got hit by the Venom Mine of Color Hex too. That revealed him, and he had to approach a little bit slower then. Now, sneaking around the side here. Oh, did he get caught there? Might have been. Hard to say. Violet looking for some picks on this Widowmaker. Flex supports, you know he's deadly. You know he's got that God tier aim. That's how it works with us Flex supports.
Is that right? You can all
know it.
Okay, I'll watch your Widowmaker next time you play.
Yeah, check it out. I could have beaten Gesture. Just saying. No, I could. RCK, really low now. Immortality Field comes in, but Color Hex in trouble here. Sinatra has to recall it, throws in the Pulse Bomb. No kills out of that one, but did a little bit of damage. Now trying to stay alive. Here comes a Dragon Strike, just barely misses Blase. Gets out of there, gets the kill on the Super. And Shock still without that first tick, but also still with a ton of time in the time bank, so you're not going to be that worried if you're a San Francisco fan at this point.
Yeah, Sinatra casually flipping that Pulse Bomb in, but there was an Immortality Field there, so got some damage done, but not able to get an elimination. They're still going. They have the EMP, so this is the ace that they have right now.
Sure. As
Choi Hyobin's going to come in, Blase sets up on the side. They know the EMP is there. So Choi Hyobin going to try and enter the building right now and get as many people as he possibly can.
Choi Hyobin in the building, and he's going to EMP everybody. Super down, though. Blase gets an early kill here. And Choi Hyobin, a little bit of trouble taking out that Immortality Field, but now with a nice hack on the RCK. That is it. The Boston Uprising team evaporate. Blase and Persia, the last people standing right now. Blase getting 2 kills, man. He's doing what he can. Persia down there. It was a valiant effort by Blase at the end, but that's going to be Shock going up 2-0. That's the end of Paris.
Moth ending it up with the Battle Mercy kill as well. A little bit of style there on the tank mode Bastion.
You do what you can. And Boston, you know, not looking terrible today, but you're playing against a Shock. Anybody's going to be in that situation. It's tough. Halftime when we come back.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, now connecting 99% of Overwatch League fans. Catch your league on America's network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. Whatever life brings your way, State Farm is here to help life go right.
Let them out. Coming for you. Meteor to right. Let's break it.
The Boston Uprising are trying to turn things around here in Stage 3, and so far San Francisco is not making that possible, as the Shock are currently up 2-0 so far at the half. What's up, everybody? Malik here. We got Sideshow, and we got Zoe. It's halftime.
Where's my fan club?
Well, Zoe has a whole fan club right there, dude.
I love you guys. You're the best.
So awesome. Speaking of the best, San Francisco Shock looking like they're back to the top
Great
tier.
segue.
Right.
Loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
right.
very much. I've been doing this whole thing
Appreciate
for a
you.
little bit. Been practicing. But guys, what do you think so far? San Francisco, we saw them beat the Seoul Dynasty last week. They looked like they were back to their old ways. And today, no indication of them slowing down at all.
I think this is indicative of what we thought the problem was with the San Francisco Shock, that they came off a win in Stage 2, and then they just settled down a bit. They kind of rested on their laurels. They didn't feel like they needed to put in 100%. And after losing to Houston, they kind of got slapped, and they were like, oh, wait, actually, if we don't put in the effort, we are going to lose to these teams.
It's a good wake-up call for them, right? Now, speaking of wake-up calls, another segue for you. Somebody who doesn't seem to be awake in this match so far is
Where's
Persia.
it going? Oh, wow.
Now, it's no secret that Aim God was definitely their go-to guy when it came to that support position, but Persia has been subbing in, and looks like the struggles continues.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd feel really bad to just like point it at him in specific. I think just overall the team didn't quite mesh together. There just seems to be some sort of breakdown going on between basically all the members they're having, as they have quite a lot of issues with fusions dying too much right now. And I don't know if this is him not communicating it right where he goes, or is it the team not healing him as they should? Is he not getting enough heal from the rest of his team? There's a lot of things going into this. So yes, Persia doesn't look good in his first few showings, but that also comes down to the team overall just not looking at top of their games.
I will say as well, I think Persia's looked a lot better on the Ana than he has done on the Zen. I think the Zen was a huge weak point for them. And whether that's communicating to keep him alive or him not saying that he's in trouble, he was getting first picked all the time. And I think Boston's starting to look slightly better running this kind of style with him on Ana, where he can keep himself alive a little bit more.
Right. Some improvements definitely today for that back line. Now, moving forward, I believe you have a little bit of an insights powered by Intel for us, don't you, Sideshow?
I certainly do, and I want to focus on the Sombra because that has been the story of San Francisco Shock's woes, but also a bunch of different teams and what they're trying to do with it. So here's how the Boston Uprising have been using their EMPs. Not very effectively at the beginning. Here's an EMP, and look at the distance between the front lines. You want to be right on top of the enemy team when that EMP comes in. And even though the EMP comes out and a load of people get hacked, here's another situation. A bunch of people get hacked, Violet comes in, they can't do anything because they're not close enough, and Violet's still there with his Transcendence. Now here's a time where it did work out, and there's a key difference here, and it's Blase. He's nano boosted on the Doomfist. If he goes in and tries to pick Violet, Violet's gonna have to use his Transcendence because a nano boosted Doomfist is essentially a one-hit combo. So he uses that Trance, that is no longer available for the San Francisco Shock. So RCK comes in, they're EMP'd, they wipe it out. So that was how they got rid of the Trance. But let's wind it back, and you'll see how close they were to Super. This is a huge difference with how close those front lines were in the first example versus the third example. They get there right up in his face as that EMP hits. They're able to overwhelm him and Choyobin very quickly. And that is something that the Houston Outlaws have been doing fantastically. One of the biggest reasons that they're having success on the Sombra is because they push with their front line at the same time as that EMP comes in. And it means that you don't have to kind of chase down your opponents as they're all hacked. And it's something that Boston need to execute on again and again if they want to have any chance of beating the Shock.
I love it. Thank you so much for that insight. Thank you for fully loading all the Sombras that I'm going to run into in comp also, Sideshow. Thank you very much.
I can't help that.
All right, guys. Well, as you guys can see, San Francisco's currently up 2-0. Can the Boston Uprising claw their way back into this game? We're going to find out in just a bit. Stay tuned.
They don't just play for a team. They play for every fan, every rival, every moment, every match. And when everyone watching expects the best, they perform with the best.
Welcome back to the Overwatch League. Guys, right now, San Francisco Shock has a 2-0 lead over the Boston Uprising, but, you know, the Shock is a Shock. Extremely good team. I personally think the Boston Uprising are looking a little bit better today overall. The execution has been a bit better overall. I'm looking for improvement.
Yeah, no,
that's what I'm saying. I do think they are improved in what we've seen today than what we've seen previously this stage.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they have looked a little bit better, but that's not saying a lot considering I think their form so far in Stage 3 probably puts them currently towards the very bottom of the league, so any improvement is welcome from them. However, they haven't, the execution, I think Sideshow did a great job of showing that in the insights powered by Intel hasn't quite been there, the follow-up on those EMPs.
Right.
And it's really hard because setting up those plays takes a lot of time and coordination, and because I think they've been switching in so many new players this stage into their starting roster, it really does take a while to develop the synergy and communication necessary to pull off complex plays like that.
Yeah, it certainly does. I try to think of it as like reworking your golf swing sometimes, right? Where you might be bad for a while, but the idea is that eventually you'll be better than when you started, right?
Yeah, the difference is you don't want to rework your golf swing in the middle of the Masters and then lose the tournament.
Yes, that's also true, yeah.
There are times and places for that. With the Boston Uprising dropping all 4 and potentially even 5 of their matches, depending on how Hollywood goes.
Yeah.
So far in stage 3.
I don't really even golf though, so I shouldn't use that analogy. I should be like reworking your key bindings like a game, you know?
There you
It's
go.
like this will be more efficient eventually, but for now I'm just gonna die a lot. That's more.
That's an off-season thing to do.
Yeah, that is. That's not a middle of the season thing to do. Well, guess what? We're going to Hollywood. In fact, we're already there. That's right. It's going to be our hybrid map. San Francisco Shock on the defense. Boston Uprising will be attacking first. What's the plan going to be? Are they actually going to roll out with this Bastion? I'd be quite surprised. Nope, they won't. But a swap over to the Junkrat is interesting too.
I appreciate that the Boston Uprising are trying new things.
Yeah.
And they are playing very deliberately. They know what the Shock are going to do. Everybody knows what the Shock is going to do at this point in time. The question is, what is going to stop them from doing it? Because no one has really cracked that code.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Only the Houston Outlaws have ever been able to stop the Shock from doing what they're doing. Right now, them and the Titans back in the Stage 1 finals anyway. And now Color Hex, just like we saw in Paris, doing damage to Shock, just poking Fusions down again though. And you know, at halftime they talked about this too. The Boston Uprising, in the middle of trying all these kind of funky plays, have had a little bit of a hard time keeping their main tank alive.
Well, luckily for them, they just got Choi Hilgen's back, and we are going to see the respawn, and the Wrecking Ball can get there very fast, so here you go. Here's a great opportunity for Boston to poke their way onto the point here with this Pharah and this Junkrat.
And Fusions is already back right now. So a chance for that advantage, 65. Let's see what the tire delivers. Blase has a chance for a big pick here. Looking for a target, does not want to get that tire shot, goes in, and oh, he finds Super. Not bad. Some really good tire maneuvering to make sure, and now Shock forced to just be aggressive as they've lost their main tank. They got to do something to try to bail themselves out here on point A. Moth zoned out, Violet and Rascal already down. Looks like the payload's going to start going for Boston.
And as a bonus, they saved their EMP. This is what we talk about when we discuss Boston's set plays and their coaching. That is a fantastic strategy. So they use the grenade and the rocket spam to force the Shock into the cafe. And by that time, they've developed enough ult charge to get the Riptire. The Riptire comes in, which means that the Shock are clustered in the cafe. The Shock had to withdraw through the cafe, which gave them free percentage on the point, and then also they got the elimination onto Super and forced to re-engage. That's a really good execution.
And now the EMP comes in as well, sets up Color Hex for that barrage, and all that extra damage, and that's going to be a good amount of distance already for the Uprising.
And one of the issues that we've seen a lot with 3-3 is it can be beaten by these kind of long-range DPS strategies if they just take a long time to develop. And they have to be executed so perfectly because it's a slow process of just chipping away, poking into the composition to force their positioning, and then you can take advantage.
Yeah, pretty much. Meanwhile, the brawl on top of the building continues. RCK gets hacked as Sinatra swapped over to that Sombra. Now Persia and RCK both down, and looks like Shock will get a little bit of time to regroup as they successfully defend the payload for the first time.
And you need that Winston because you have to have that mobility to jump onto targets. I really like, normally I wouldn't like the Shock's composition running the Sombra without the Zarya because you need that damage to power through the sustain against 3-3. But when you're running against multiple DPS, you can coordinate the Winston and the Sombra and they can take out some of these lower HP characters.
Right.
200 HP characters, not so much of a difficulty with just the Sombra and the Winston, so it does work here.
Yeah. Here comes the tire again. Color Hex down though. Gonna have to be a big one for Blase to convert this into a team fight win. Color Hex gets res. Ooh, that tire not finding its target. RCK, or rather Sinatra, saving himself with the translocator, I believe there.
So we're gonna try and poke off the top. They do force the
Whoa.
trans.
All right. That's a big win, forcing the Transcendence out from Violet. And now ColorX is going to have that barrage and not need to worry about the Zen healing everybody through it. Needs that EMP from RCK though. Opportunity. Sinatra, picked out of the air by ColorX. What a shot. Oh, gets another one midair onto Super. That's what we want to see, and here comes the barrage now. No trouble at all. ColorX making the plays.
Given the salute at the end, and again, Boston preserving that EMP. So they're going to have another opportunity here to move through the map relatively quickly. What a clutch kill. Sinatra was 90+% on that EMP. He's going to try and use it on the comeback.
I mean, they're going to give it a shot. That payload right at the end of B, so if you're going to defend it, here's the best place. Sleep Dart in onto Choyobin, though. Doesn't matter, they can't finish the damage, and are you kidding me? How did Shock defend that?
Crazy re-engage because Sinatra had the EMP after he revived.
Wow.
Sort of undoes a lot of Color Hex's great work on that Pharah. Now they've got to push in again. A lot of ults were used by them on that last push, but they're coming up on 5 again, so not too much of a big deal.
Man,
for that opportunity.
So close.
Yeah, Violet hiding right now. He's gotten very good at keeping out of line of sight.
Yeah, you can't get EMP'd here. You need to be able to Transcendence and save your team afterwards. RCK does see him, though. Sees him in the building. What's the play going to be? There's the EMP and a Choyobin and a few other members. Violet does have that Transcendence, of course. Keep people safe. Minefield coming in. Now Blase looking for a kill with that tire, and he's going to find one more. Wolf, Violet, and Rascal, both people down. Meanwhile, Nano Boost on the ColorX. He gets hacked, but he's still doing that extra damage. Can't land the rockets, though. Can he get away from the self-destruct? No, he can't. And Choyobin comes back for a clutch 2K with that ultimate, and again, the Shock pull it out of the fire at the last moment.
And it's just so hard for Boston to push the payload because they only have the Wrecking Ball with a lot of HP. So Super's able to drag that fight out thanks to having the Primal Rage. They just don't have people there who can contest it.
Again, just by the slimmest of margins, the Shock preserved their defense here on point B.
And now the Shock coming in with that EMP. They can cycle the rest of their ultimates against it, get their support ults back up.
That's the plan anyway.
Yeah, Boston has a chance here, though. They can poke for a second, not play into the EMP. They can force San Francisco to play aggressively. There's only 20 seconds left. We're in last team fight territory.
Another big tire from Blase might be what's needed as well. Translocator comes up there. Sinatra with the EMP gets 5 people. Only Persia unhit. Blase down immediately. There's a nice hack on Fusions. He's not going to last much longer. And Shock just evaporate the Boston Uprising. They are not even going to get to that payload. Blase can't really push it as far. That's it. A little bit of tactical crouching. At the end, but they deserve it. That was a great defense from the Shock, and that's a tough one. It's tough to have your attack end there if you're Boston.
Shock played that so well, though.
Yeah, really
I mean,
did.
Boston, they did whatever they could. I think they played pretty well into that attack, but Shock adapted towards the end of B.
Yep.
Very good ultimate usage.
Shock showing why they're one of the best. We'll see it on attack again in just a second. Well, it was a game of inches for the Boston Uprising at the end of point B, but just not quite able to get it over the line. They'll have to end their attack with only a single point on Hollywood. Now it's going to be Shock's turn, and you know, you and I were talking about this during the break. It's got to be tough for Boston because they are playing a lot better today, and they're playing at a level that I think would lead them to beat, you know, a good amount of teams in this league if they're playing against them. But instead, they're playing against the Shock, and the Shock are incredible. That was an incredible defense at the end of B. Now we get to see what they can do on attack.
You know, this is honestly like a very good example of why triple tank, triple support is so good. Because if you go into sort of the theory of the game the way it's played right now, there's just a lot less margin for error when you're running the DPS compositions.
True.
So even though Boston, I feel like, is playing them well, because the 3-3 is so strong when it comes to ultimates, and because there's so much sustain, even though Shock was playing with the Sombra, so it was a variant, it really makes it difficult if you're also perfect in using that composition for the DPS comp to overcome them. But I do think what Boston was doing was an impressive display, and right there we see a nice biotic grenade.
Yeah.
And I think it could beat, like legitimately win some matches against teams that are worse at the 3-3 than San Francisco.
Oh, definitely. There were a lot of good individual plays from Boston in that last round that a lot of other teams would have had trouble dealing with, but Shock is Shock. Now they're on the attack on Super Artie with a kill into Blase. I think he went for that rocket fist and got a hammer to the face instead. Charge comes in from Fusions, but he's just going to get knocked off the high ground by Choyabin. What a play, killing Alamau as well. Choyabin's so good at getting people out of position on that Diva. Love watching that guy. It's going to be a quick point day for the Shock.
They're just going to take it right away. So, you know, you try and go in, make the play on the Doomfist. If you get that elimination, you're going to be feeling great. They also got a good biotic grenade in there. Persia has been hitting a lot of bio grenades, and you can see that he's got a high percentage towards the nano boost already.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been enough. Sinatra going to get sleeped, and looks like does not get hacked, so block the hack there.
Well, a little bit of trouble there, Blase. Down as well. Now San Francisco moving forward. RCK no health, but he's close to that EMP. If he can live, maybe they can bring that into a successful fight here to get things started. But look at all the time that Shock has to finish point B. They basically took A on their first attack.
The pickoffs at the start of fights, whether it's RCK or Blase, are really killing the Uprising. Like, they just can't happen with your flankers because it resets your entire composition, and it takes so long to get those heroes into position that it turns into a disaster.
EMP, RCK.
Can he get the finish it?
Oh,
Yes.
there we go. Finally finished off Violet. They needed that. They needed it big time. Moth down as well. Blase, as you can see, swapping over to the Brigida. I think that's a good plan. Nice right click. Send Reinhardt somersaulting to Oblivion.
I love somersaulting to Oblivion. It sounds like one of your bands from high school.
That's right.
Somersault to Oblivion.
That is a punk rock band I played in somersaulting to Oblivion. Well, that was the name of our first album, actually. Grab comes in from the Shock now, and Blase and the rest of Boston Uprising caught a little bit. Ooh, super down though. Fusions with a nice fire strike. Violet not able to save his tank with that Transcendence, and that might be an ultimate that Shock wishes they had in the next fight.
A couple ultimates with the Graviton as well, because they traded evenly.
Look at this though. Sinatra doing so much damage, just walking forward anyway. Boston Uprising giving so much ground.
I mean, they could have solo grabbed Sinatra there, actually. He was way ahead. And
he's just so intimidating though.
The Tivo was nowhere near him. That's one of those opportunities where you're like, okay, if you're in a position like that, then I'm just going to kill you.
But if Sinatra's running at you, what are you going to do? I would run the other direction. He's terrifying. Shatter comes in, tried to walk past the shield. They did kill Fusions. Violet gets one there. Now the grab for Boston Uprising, not giving them a whole lot here. Sound barrier for Shock as they try to grind their way through this fight and finish off Hollywood. Goodbye, Color Hex. Now RCK on his lonesome. I've lost my ability to say player names as the Boston Uprising have lost their ability to defend on this map. EMP comes in. No one really there to follow up on that.
They were all grabbed, unfortunately for them, so the EMP doesn't have value, and that's it.
Yep. 3-0 for the San Francisco Shock. They're going to win this series. One more map to play. It's all about the map record now. The winner is Shock. Quick break. When we come back, the final map.
The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Well, the San Francisco Shock have locked this one up 3-0 so far in this series. We're going to go to map 4. And as we look ahead to the season playoffs, map wins do matter. Map differential is important, of course. But for the Boston Uprising, this is another tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop really for the Boston Uprising going down 0-5 so far in the stage.
Yeah, would not have expected that going into stage 3.
Yeah, and I think at least if you're a Boston fan, there is some time. They're not going to the homestand in Atlanta, so they are going to have a few weeks off to retool themselves before stage 4 starts. There might be a little bit of a resting period for them, or a period where they can go through some more adjustments. And they have looked better today. I do think that this is the best we've seen Boston play this stage.
Right. And you've always got your football team, so stop whining.
And your hockey team, or is that too soon for the NHL Finals?
I don't know. I haven't watched
it's hard to feel bad for Boston sports fans.
Yeah.
With how many championships they've had in the last 20 years.
Shock will be defending here. Boston on the attack again here on our escort map on Dorado. And we'll see what the plan is. Maybe they're going to put people up on the high ground in a hurry with that teleporter. We'll see if Blase follows through with that one.
Yeah, Shock, a bit of a surprising
maybe not
0-3 score on Dorado. So this is actually not a map that Shock has ever won.
Yeah, Boston Uprising sticking with the Doomfist and the Sombra this time. So really trying to put some practice into that composition.
Nice
I do think it is one of the better anti-3-3 comps out there. Ooh, Choyobin gets pinned, gets in trouble. Did he get debacked? Oh, did he barely escape? That
he
immortality
got saved by the immortality field from Rascal. Not gonna matter, but that was a cool play.
Yeah, it's gonna be Blase coming in with the kill on the super anyway, but Rascal with a good play for the moment. Now he's gonna get punched out. Goodbye. That payload is on the way.
Yeah, it looked really dire there as he got hit by the biotic grenade. Still though, Boston Uprising able to control the chaos by forcing out that immortality field, led to an opening for Blase. But you know what? It's still a 5 versus 5, though, as San Francisco Shock are making their way back to the payload.
I mean,
it seems
nothing is off the table defensively if Sinatra has a lot of charge. And then Zarya, look at that. He's sitting around 90 right now. He's doing so much damage, and if he's got the high ground, he's gonna wreck it.
And Sinatra always has the high ground. That's part of what the Shock do.
Yeah, like I said, he's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Overwatch League. He's always got the high ground.
And he wins too, so.
Apparently it's important. Yep. Well. Oh boy, now taking some damage here. Luckily he had that shielded Reinhardt to bail him out a little bit there. Payload still not making too much progress. They're trying to bring it through the choke now jumping on the color hex. They're gonna drop down behind the Boston Uprising. They weren't ready for that. Here comes a meteor strike. And just gonna be like, yep, I'm gonna reset. That's a reset strike right there.
They do get the D-Mech though, so at least a minor victory at the end. RCK with the EMP also still deep behind the San Francisco Shock composition. So that's gonna cause everybody to retake the high ground now for the Shock. See if they can catch them in an EMP. Everybody in the open right now. This is RCK's chance.
Sure is. Oh, Color X down already. Wow, Violet delivering a lot of that damage, but man, he just got focused so hard.
Yeah, Boston just hasn't been able to set up these flanks in the ideal way, and it takes so much time off the clock when you mess it up.
If you take a full right click from that Zenyatta, that'll do it too. I think that's what we're seeing in the bottom right. What is this, a replay for ants? Oh, RCK hiding here. We're seeing both views at once. Oh, I see.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, fancy. Oh, goodbye, Violet. You dead. San Francisco Shock in a little bit of trouble on the defense here. RCK setting that one up. Translocating back into the back line. Super down as well. Good use of the grab by the Boston Uprising. And now they can maybe get that payload going finally.
It seems like they will be able to keep it moving at this point. Rascal sacrificing himself on the payload. Sinatra is still alive on the flank. I guess he's going to try for the transfer. This is so risky.
Whoa. All right. Disco Fever on the payload here as he leads away for Super to come back in, but I don't know about that, man. That rocket punch did get absorbed by the Zarya.
Oh, my.
Oh, it's the Space Jam. Nope. Off in a little bit of trouble. Nice right click followed by Blase there, but Choyobin.
I can't believe the shot.
How does Shock continue to do this?
So
all they need is one ultimate, man.
what happened there was Sinatraa was in the choke that you're looking at in the center of your screen right now. He hid. He waited for Violet to come back, trans onto the payload, which gave him the time to build the grab. He grabbed, and then the sound barrier came in with the rest of the team. That is unreal timing from the Shock.
That is called insult to injury is what that's called, man. I don't know if Boston can even get to the payload. They barely touch, but they lose 2 people doing it. That's going to be the end of the round. A full hold for the Shock, not allowing a single point from the Boston Uprising attack. And it's all clean up now. We are nearly done with this one. That was a crazy defense from the Shock again. They are looking terrifying.
That is just, we can't figure out what to do. Fist bump.
It's okay, it's esports. We're used to this kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Handshakes or high fives
catch.
and fist bumps always go wrong somehow.
Yep, that's right.
Well, that was just a terrifying defense. I mean, how does it feel to be the Boston Uprising? You're like, yeah, we got this. Oh, wait, we didn't kill Sinatraa, and somehow they're going to, like, 2v6 us. All right.
All it takes is Violet just hanging out on the payload transcendent. Everybody just walks in, you know?
It's just amazing to me how fast they can make these plans.
Right.
Like, the communication is so quick, knowing that they have an opportunity to hold that point because they have the 2 support ults, and Sinatra's about to get that grab. What insane confidence from the Shock.
Well, that's the thing. I think sometimes confidence is the key, too. You know, sometimes you make those plays because you think you can make those plays in the moment.
It's insane. Like I like that. That is such a beautiful defense from the Shock. It's so hard to execute that at any level, but especially against another professional team.
Pandaria, Vas, Niblas. That was a good expansion. Wow. People like to make fun of the Panda guys, but that was a fun time. Tortas Tacos. Cali del Mercado.
Your Spanish is abysmal.
Thank you. Or should I say, gracias.
You got that one.
All right. 2.5 years in high school and college.
And you still can't pronounce it right.
I've replaced all of that with Korean at this point.
I see. Just overwrote the hard drive.
I've heard if you learn a language later in life, it just overwrites other languages. I've clearly overwritten English to a
we have a
certain
lot
degree,
of
too.
research on that.
I think so.
Top neuroscientists agree.
That's right.
That's how the brain works. Exactly like a hard drive, overwriting things.
Yeah, well, when you have limited space, you work with what you got. I'll see you on that Suicide by Words subreddit.
Well, Shock, they're playing with Orisa and triple DPS right now.
Yeah.
As you can, quad DPS, excuse me, as you can see on your screen. Nothing like a little Choi Hyobin on the Pharah, and then a hack onto RCK.
Yeah, Blase down as well, Shock. Just again, they got the faster respawn, so why not? If you die, just come right back, get those kills, and move that payload. And this is interesting, too, because we've talked about this earlier, that Shock is kind of showing this to be like, hey, guys, we can also do this. Yeah, you know how good we are at 3-3? Guess what? We can also just run a ton of DPS as well. So when you're doing all your planning to face us, here's an extra thing you have to account for.
Also, they casually have Architect and Striker on the bench right now.
Yeah,
so
exactly,
maybe the best Tracer player in the league on the bench. Must be nice. Feels good to be San Francisco Shock.
You know, Sinatraa made a name for himself on that Tracer back in the day. Like, that is the hero that he was known for. Getting a chance to play it right now. Got that pulse bomb. Violet taking all his kills away, though. Oh, Kovacs getting chased around. There's the elimination. Sinatraa, all his killing blows are getting stolen. That was sad. And that is the end of the match. A 4-0 for the San Francisco Shock. They do it in dominating fashion.
The Outlaws made them mad, Noah.
They did. I think so.
The Outlaws made the Shock really mad.
They were like, never again. Getting beat by a former teammate. That Dante got that. That's the last time anyone's ever going to get a win over the Shock, apparently.
Yeah, it looks like they have returned to form.
Yeah.
The past couple matches.
That said, though, we have been seeing improvement from Boston between the last match and this one. Absolutely. I am a fan of the Doomfist Sombra Cup. I think they had a few really nice plays in there. And I think they played to a level, like I said, that's going to beat a lot of other teams in the league.
I like that Junkrat attack on Hollywood.
Yeah,
I think that was probably their best map and their best execution. So it's something they can keep on showing here as the Overwatch League moves forward. They may be able to snag a couple of wins from lesser teams, but not today for the Boston Uprising.
What do you do when the Shockamania runs wild on you, though? That's a question. Sage 3 standings, as you can see, the Shock 3-1. Titans, Excelsior, and the Dragons still unbeaten, but the Dragons, of course, only playing 2 maps here. Meanwhile, Boston Uprising all the way at the bottom, 0-5. Again, not something that we would have expected going into this stage, but you know, that happens sometimes. Just ask a few of the other teams in the league.
On the plus side, Outlaws bouncing back from an 0-7 stage. Same with the Valiant, 0-7 in stage 1, and they're starting to climb back up the standings. So there's always hope.
Not too bad. Well, let's find out who our player of the match was. I'm excited about this. Let's do it. Our player of the match by Omen by HP. It is the one, the only Rascal. That's right. Playing the Brigitte, playing everything else.
Yeah, playing the Batiste, playing the Sombra in that last attack on Dorado. So
A lot of damage right there.
just showing his accuracy, just as a player in general, former DPS main. Now, mostly on that Brigitte or Batiste duty, playing some supports, but he is just such an immense threat. And it was all about him shutting down these players. He was either flanking and getting kills, or he was getting RCK first, picking him off first in the fight and shutting down the flanks. So really credit to him because he kind of broke the back of that flanking DPS composition.
Yeah, pretty much. One of the most exciting flex support / DPS players that we have in the league right now, and just so good at picking up newer heroes and really excelling at them as well. Well, first match in the bag. Thanks to our Disney XD audience for tuning in. Don't go anywhere, guys. There's still a lot more Overwatch action coming up. Gonna be Paris versus the Outlaws right after this. It's gonna be sick.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, now connecting 99% of Overwatch League fans. Catch your league on America's network, T-Mobile.